I made you the host, so I don't know if you want. Oh, awesome, we're recording now. Awesome. Well, hi everyone. It's good to see y'all, at least say your names. If you're not comfortable being recorded, totally get that. But maybe if y'all could just put in the chat maybe a fun fact about you. Yeah, that'd be awesome, so I can kind of know who I'm talking to, like gauge some interest, just some idea of like what the audience is like here. Maybe I can give a quick introduction while y'all are thinking of a fun fact. So I'm Cosette. I am a senior right now at the University of Florida. I'm studying health education and behavior. I am minoring in health disparities in society, and I am, of course, on the pre-med track. I'm actually not applying to med school this year because I'm taking a gap 2 years and doing a special program over in California, which I'll talk about later in the presentation, so no worries about that. But I guess a fun fact about me would be I love learning languages. So I speak English and Spanish, and I'm currently learning Chinese, French, and German on Duolingo. So Duolingo's been my best friend. Oh, someone in the chat said they love candles. I love candles, but I can't have them where I live because I'm in a dorm. I'm a resident assistant or an RA, so I kind of look over a floor, and so we can't have open flames in here. So for obvious reasons. Lucy said they like learning Italian on Duolingo. That's fun. Oh, okay. I'm sorry if I butchered your names, so maybe I'll just refrain from saying names. But we have a guitar player. I have my guitar right over here. Love her. Got it for free from a friend. So kind. Um, we have another person who likes ice cream a lot. That's a good time. Oh, someone else plays piano. Aw, journaling, ice cream. Wow. We have a lot of musicians here. I love that. It's really awesome. I'm assuming all of y'all are at least considering the field of medicine or healthcare or something along those lines. This is obviously like a pre-med like interest club. So someone else likes sleeping. Okay. Sleeping is very fun and also extremely healthy. Like people, okay, especially college students, we are so like we're so bad at sleeping. Like some people are like, yeah, I get a full 8 hours every night. Some people are like, I run on four. But sleeping is very, very important for your body's healing mechanisms. Someone else likes pasta. Yeah, pasta is a staple in my diet too. Totally get that. Nice. Well, it's awesome to learn about y'all. Feel free to keep putting stuff in the chat, whatever you want to put in there that you want me to know. But maybe I'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. So I'm going to close the chat for now, but I will be able to see if anything pops up. So I'm going to go here. Got my little PowerPoint here that I made for y'all. And then slideshow. Play from start. Okay, so I'm going to keep the chat box open. Oh, can y'all hear me? Someone said they can't hear me in the chat.
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So maybe it is your connection. So sorry about that. Also, I sometimes talk too fast, so feel free to be like, Cosette, slow down. Because if I get passionate, I just blah, 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 blah. But so feel free to just be like, yo, chill. Or if you have any questions too, like put them in the chat, unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with. And we'll answer those as they come in. But yeah, so I made this presentation. I think their name was Fadi, if I'm saying that right, reached out to me and said, asked if people would be available to give a presentation to their pre-med club at their school, and kind of just talking about anything I wanted to talk about. And so that gives me a lot of free reign, but also like, what am I going to speak about? So I decided to kind of give some tips about being a pre-med student, but taking more of a non-traditional approach. So I was definitely considering less of the get good grades and more of the, okay, well, how do I continue like enjoying my life and actually enjoying the pre-med experience? So that being said, I'm going to teach you on how to balance pre-med in your personal life and how to be a successful pre-med student in your college years, because these are some of the best years of your life, which I know is kind of scary to think about, but they've been the best of mine so far, hands down. So I'm going to go ahead and so who am I? That's me when I was little with one of my childhood best friends. Her name is Jasmine, and then there's one of my brothers. He's also pretty cool, I guess. But I love dogs. I've been an animal lover since I was very young, considered veterinary, but then I was like, I don't really know if I have the heart to be cutting into animals. I think I'd let my emotions control too much of my care, and so that would definitely affect my ability to take care of my patients. So I decided to stray away from veterinary medicine and let other people who were good in that area do that. But I've always considered healthcare from a young age. Just I've been around doctors a lot, just through family matters and everything like that. So I've seen the impact that healthcare workers have had on my life, and I'm like, I could totally see myself in this same field. Um, I also, okay, so I said earlier, my name's Cosette. My pronouns are she, her. I go to the University of Florida. I am an honor student here as part of our honors program. So shameless plug, we extended our deadline. I don't know if any of y'all are seniors in high school right now. So if you are, shout out to you. We extended our application deadline to November 16th. So if you're looking to go to Florida for your college years, let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about UF or UF honors and how that's shaped my experience here. But I said what I was studying earlier. I'm from this place called Cocoa, Florida. So Cocoa Beach, Florida. My family just moved to Melbourne. Um, and yeah, I love my school. I love what I do, and I love what I'm studying. I originally came in as a biology major, but then I took more classes in health disparities and even developed my passions, which I'll talk about later in the presentation, and kind of transitioned into this more of a health educator role as opposed to studying like a science, because that's not where my passion lies. So once again, getting more into that later. But that's a little bit about me. Oh, wait, okay. Awesome. So you want to go into medicine. So I have a few different tips, 5 tips that I've tried to like narrow down. There's a lot of different tips and tricks of how to be a pre-med student, and there's honestly no like certain way to be a pre-med student, but I've kind of narrowed down like 5 different principles I kind of live by and just reflect on a lot as I'm going through my pre-med experience. So the first step, I'd say these go chronological. So I think the very first step is understanding what being a doctor means. So that kind of seems a little bit kind of just like intuitive, okay, well, a doctor is someone that helps people, someone that takes care of people in a medical setting, which, yes, that's exactly what they do. But there are so many hats a doctor wears. And so there's so many different ways a doctor can help people and take care of people. You have people working in the OR, the operating room, that are acting as surgeons performing really awesome life-saving surgeries or really long, complicated surgeries just to help someone regain their life back. You have people in this middle square. I highlighted the research aspect of being a doctor. So a lot of doctors spend times maybe working in a lab, less in a clinical side, but more so developing vaccines. So like something like COVID that's really prevalent these days, that you have a lot of researchers spending countless hours developing these clinical trials for treatments and vaccines and researching diseases so we can get a better understanding of how these diseases affect us as humans. And then we also have people in a more clinical setting, doctors sitting more one-on-one with patients. You have those people that, you maybe go see a specialist for a heart condition or something along those lines. And so you have those people, the very personal, intimate times with just you and maybe your patient and like a family member of theirs or something. And so you have all these different hats that you wear. You're a counselor, you're an educator, you're a researcher, you're an administrator, you're an advocate for your colleagues, for your patients, for even for those that are commonly around you. You're constantly collaborating with so many people from so many different backgrounds. So it's really important to understand like what you're getting yourself into. It's not a very lax field, which I'll say, talk about later on. It's very demanding, but it's so rewarding too. So you have all these different roles that you fulfill in the healthcare industry, which is awesome. But so making sure you have that overview of what is kind of expected of you as a doctor. And a point I really wanted to highlight was that healthcare is really an interprofessional team. So you're hardly ever working by yourself as a doctor. You have your other maybe attending physicians with you. You have people that are reporting to you. Sometimes you have your residents that are just out of medical school but not quite ready to be on their own yet. You have pharmacists, dental teams, like that can be, dental surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, that can be physician assistants, that can be any kind of like any kind of specialty out there. You're working with all these different kinds of healthcare professionals. You're working with um, the different therapists we have. So, physical therapists, occupational therapists, respiratory therapists, all these people in hospital settings, clinical settings. You have medical device manufacturers. That's not something that people really think about, but that's also an industry in the healthcare field that you can go into. If you're more like engineering, thinking like I like to put things together, take things apart, really how like body mechanics and stuff works, that's awesome for you to go into. Healthcare administration is also a great field if you exhibit great leadership skills and you're really good at accomplishing administrative tasks. It's still, we need those people in the healthcare field. So it's really important for you to catch a glimpse. You're working with nurses. I'm not sure if I said that earlier, but before you completely set your heart on, oh, I'm going to do medicine and medicine, that's it. It's really important to even just get some experience in these other fields. Like I worked as a CNA starting my senior year of high school, which is a nursing assistant. And so I got to shadow a lot of nurses and respiratory therapists and PTOTs, a lot of different people coming in and out of the facilities I was working in the hospital I was doing clinical at. And it really opened my eyes, but also kind of confirmed nursing wasn't quite for me. I really liked the care I gave to my patients, but I needed something a little bit different that played to my strengths differently. And so I was able to kind of be like, okay, maybe not nursing for me. And then, in high school, not high school, in college during my sophomore into my junior year, I joined a research team in the dental school working with nutrition and caries prevention. And so trying to get a glimpse of, okay, well, my PI, my principal investigator, she was a dietitian or registered dietitian, and also she was a dentist, a dentist. And so I was able to see kind of the work that she did and just not necessarily rule them out completely, but just get a deeper appreciation for them, knowing that, okay, I'm set on medicine, but these are the different roles and the different people I will be working with. And so it's really important to hear and to see and appreciate the work that they do, because we all are working to the same common goal of just providing what's best for the patient. And honestly, there's so many more that I couldn't list on this slide because there's so many people that work together to accomplish this goal. So, all right, that's enough for tip 1. So tip number 2, get to know yourself. This is something that I know I value highly. Getting to know yourself is extremely beneficial in your college applications, which I know some of you might be working on. If not, you will be in the future if you decide to go to college. There's for interview processes when you're interviewing for leadership roles in any kind of capacity, it's really important to be self-aware and to have that knowledge, that view of yourself, and knowing what your strengths and what your weaknesses are and all those kinds of things. So who are you? That's a really important question to have an answer to. When someone asks you, tell me a little bit about yourself, what do you say? Do you say, well, I'm a girl and I'm a student, and like that doesn't tell me much. There's so many like female students out there. I need to know what makes you. What makes Cosette, what makes Lucy, Lucy, right? So your identity, your background, where you came from, that's really important for you to take some time to explore and reflect on. For example, half of my family comes from Colombia, and so I spent a lot of my childhood and even now well into my college years exploring that background and learning Spanish, even though I grew up in like a single parent household, and so that parent didn't speak Spanish. I took it upon myself to kind of get more rooted in that culture and kind of identify more with that side of my family. And so really getting that chance to see, okay, how does my culture play into my identity, and how will that even affect my care like way later on down with my patients who also are maybe struggling with identity issues or even just coming from backgrounds that are different than mine. So that's an important part of knowing who you are. And then one of my favorite ones to talk about is the strengths. So I'm in a class right now, professional development, which is awesome for learning about yourself and learning how to be a professional in the healthcare field. And so we had to do a Clifton Strengths test, or Strengths Finder assessment is what it's called, and it tells you, it ranks your strengths from greatest to least, and then it kind of gives you your top five. And your top five are kind of like the strengths that kind of define you and really incorporate your skill set. It's a pretty long questionnaire, but it's so worth it because at the end you get to really learn more about yourself. So for example, my top strengths were strategic, learner, achiever, connectedness, and includer. So I'm able to now take those strengths and apply them. So like think, okay, how did I observe this in my early childhood years? And I realized as an includer, I always was a person that made sure people felt validated, and like they had a place in a group setting. I never liked people, like seeing people left out. I just had like a radar, for people standing by themselves in a corner. Like I did not like that at all. And so I felt everyone was equally important. Everyone has a voice that needs to be brought out. And so I'm able to now use that and be more intentional with what I get involved in and how I shape my pre-med experience. So strengths are very important. And then it also helps you identify what you can bring to the table. You're in a med school interview and they're asking you, well, what makes you a good fit for University of Florida College of Medicine? And you can say, well, my top three strengths are strategic, learner, and achiever, meaning I like to analyze, I have a passion for learning, and then I have a high work ethic and I'm highly motivated. And so I can combine all of these to do whatever it is, like, et cetera, like bring these skills to your college and really make an impact on my fellow students and my future patients. And then equally as important, it's important to know your weaknesses. So not as a way to expose yourself, like, oh, I'm really bad at this, but maybe you're like, these are things that I can work on. And then this is how, having that plan of action, how am I going to work on those weaknesses? How am I going to improve in these areas of my life, of my character? And then passion. So passions and strengths are probably my two favorite ones to talk about. Your passion, so like what gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you want to wake up and take that really hard exam? Maybe you're doing AP. I'm not sure if you're in AP, IB, or ACE school, but maybe it's like trying to figure out, why am I putting myself through all of this stress? Like, this is not easy. But it's that passion that's motivating you. Yes, this is hard right now, but being goal oriented, having the end in sight, like, yes, it's hard right now, but my patients are gonna like get the best care from me. And so all my hard work now is going to go towards making sure that they have an awesome patient care experience. And then lastly, your conflict management style. So this is also something I just learned in my professional development class, but it's how do you handle conflict when it arises? You may be working in a healthcare setting, which goes back to the previous slides of talking about interprofessional care. So you may be in charge of diffusing conflict between a nurse that wants to do some sort of like something in their practice, something to help a patient, where you may have a therapist that's like, maybe that's not the best idea. Then you have a physician that's like, well, how about we try this approach? It's knowing, how do you handle that? How do you diffuse that conflict when it arises? And so that's a really important part of knowing who you are. So yeah, moving right along to tip number 3. So developing a high work ethic. So I think this kind of speaks for itself, but and a high work ethic is, I think, extremely necessary to become a physician. I'm sure a lot of you have taken some time to explore the field of medicine, and even if you haven't, like I said, you're, from what I understand, all in high school, and so you're thinking about it. Maybe some of you have been like, I want to be a doctor since I was 5, and that's fantastic. Some of you may be like, this is something I'm considering, but haven't set my heart on it quite yet. That's also fine. Everyone's on their own path. But knowing, I think from the get-go, it's important to realize the intensity that comes with being a pre-med, med student, et cetera, et cetera. Any kind of healthcare professional comes with its challenges, and so being in medicine, it's important to have these ways, this toolkit to develop your high work ethic and increasing your productivity. So for example, my favorite way is to time manage and prioritize what is most important to me, what responsibilities have I been given, and how can I make sure I get those responsibilities done first, and then work my way backwards from there. So I included a picture of my planner. I didn't fill out Thursday or Friday. This was a couple weeks ago. But I like color code everything that I'm involved in. So like purple is self-care, so anything like gym or like making meals or stuff like that. I have my extracurriculars, so tutoring that I do, or like certain general body meetings. Yellow is miscellaneous, blue is class, orange is homework, etc., etc. And so this has been extremely helpful in allowing me to make sure I get everything I need to get done, that it gets done, that I'm not forgetting anything. I make little assignment to-do lists here. This planner that I use, I'm going to put a shameless plug in here. It's called a Passion Planner. I have it right here. This ad is not sponsored by Passion Planner, but I will gladly advertise it for free because it has definitely shaped the way that my productivity levels. It's definitely helped me prioritize what's most important. Even here, you have top priority, priority, errands. So those kinds of things that help me get a weekly view, like an overarching view of, okay, this is what I need to get done this week. And increasing your productivity also helps you build up endurance. So like I was talking about earlier, medicine is not a lax profession. It's definitely something that requires stamina and endurance. And so, yeah, physically, mentally, emotionally, you're going to be dealing with a lot. And starting with the pre-med experience, from what I can definitely speak from experience, you're put under a lot of stress. You're asked to be a high achieving student in all of your academia, so all those hard science classes. Luckily, I'm already done with genetics and biochem and organic chemistry and stuff, all those hard classes that you hear horror stories about. So I'm already done with those, and they were enjoyable actually because I've been able to find ways to actually enjoy learning the information. You're expected to be involved in extracurriculars, taking on leadership roles, getting involved in community service. Work sometimes if you have to. I know I have to work two jobs to support myself and even send some money back home to help support my family. So that's something you have to, that's like real life advice that you have to take into consideration. Research. So not everyone needs to do or is interested in doing research, and that's okay. But it is a part of the application that you can talk about, and that it's not limited to, a wet lab experience where you're like using cadavers and cutting things open, or even that you're growing some sort of bacteria or whatever it may be. That's a component of research, but research really is available in virtually all professions. So that's an awesome thing to get involved in, and that I also look for on applications. And shadowing too. Shadowing, once again, knowing what you're getting into. Like, it's great to see me give a presentation about, oh, this is what medicine is, but for you to actually be in the room where it happens, coming from one of my favorite musicals, it's really important for you to get that view for yourself, to understand, okay, well, this is what it's like to be a health professional. This is what I'd be expected to do on any kind of day basis. And then using your strengths to your advantage. So really, that's why I had that other slide first, because once you get to know yourself, you're able to see, well, I'm strategic, meaning I like to analyze, I'm very detail oriented. So I know that if I put in my schedule very specific times that I expect to do something, then that'll help me actually get it done. Because, I plan my days out to the half hour here. And that's not like general across the board. Some people, like, that gets them overwhelmed, and that's something important for you to learn about yourself. But for me, I love this. I like filling out my planner each week is an act of self-care for me. Just even scheduling time to do this with my planner is really therapeutic for me. So tip 4, so involve your passions. So I talked a little bit about passions earlier, but I would argue this is probably one of the most important tips that I have in this presentation. Your passions really speak volumes, just about you, about your character, and it's really important to understand you can incorporate them in your med school prep. So as you're considering, okay, you already know where you want to go for undergrad, but you're going through undergrad with this view in mind of, I want to go to med school. And that's really great that you have that idea so early on in your pre-med experience, but then you're like using all those 4 years with like being med school centric in mind. So you're like, what can I do to get into medical school? And so it's really easy to lose sight of your passions in an effort to satisfy what you think med school committees want. But the best practice that I've noticed, and I've been to a lot of different presentations from a lot of different medical schools about the students they look for, is that those students who demonstrate their passions in their extracurricular activities tend to do the best in these interviews because it's a lot easier to talk about your passions in interviews. Like right now, I have a passion for like mentoring students and for helping students along this journey, along things that I've been through, which I'll talk a little bit more now in this slide and next one. But like that's one of my passions. So like I don't mind talking to students and other pre-med students, students who are in high school about the pre-med journey because it's like what I love to do, and so that's kind of a role I've been taking up a lot is this idea of mentoring. And so here on the right hand side of the screen, hopefully you guys can see these pictures, but they're from an organization that's really dear to my heart. It's called Gator for Reading Pals. Myself and my two friends, Bao and Caroline, the three of us, we founded this organization at our school last year. We partnered with United Way of North Central Florida, which is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to community empowerment. And we established this program at our university that pairs up university students with elementary students in low income and underserved elementary schools in the Gainesville area. I did some research on the educational disparities, which is just like a difference in care, access to resources in a community. And so some schools were scoring extremely high on standardized tests, and then you have these other schools that are in the same area, but they're like Title I schools and schools that were not getting a lot of funding for literacy programs. They were kind of being neglected, and they were scoring significantly lower. And literacy is something that's been a passion of mine for a while. I've loved to read since I was very young. I loved education. I've been tutoring my friends since I guess I was able to back in elementary school. I've always had this passion of increasing educational awareness. Okay, I'm sorry, I was not supposed to like say names, but asked about shadowing experience. I will definitely answer that towards the end of the presentation because the next slide is going to talk about experiences. So I will definitely talk to more about that. But Reading Pals. So anyways, we established this Reading Pals program, and it quickly grew. So many students were also interested in the intersection between education or literacy and student success, and seeing the importance of this. And so with that club, it's not something I can talk about to my future med school interview committees and be like, yeah, like it's not directly healthcare related. We're not providing healthcare, but literacy is a very important part of health. And health literacy is this term we use to describe describe the capacity of someone to receive health education materials and actually get something out of it, and take it in, digest those materials. And if they can't do that, then that really can harm their healthcare experience and can harm their overall health status. And so that's not directly related to healthcare. It's still something I can talk about to them, and this is how I spent my time. And so, like, don't be afraid to think big. It shows you're highly motivated and genuine. Like, you're a genuine human being, and all the doctors you see, the doctors you're going to be in the future, you're still going to be human beings, and you're going to be working with fellow human beings. So it's really important to be genuine and really highly motivated to actively take action on what you're passionate about. So I am passionate about educational disparities in my community, and so this is what I chose to spend my time on. And the last tip I have for you, and then I promise we'll get to questions. Let's see what time it is. Okay, awesome, we're doing good. So tip 5, diversify your experience. And what I mean by that is to not limit yourself. So there's really no cookie cutter way to get into medical school. There are, I think, certain standards, you have to meet. You can't necessarily get in with a 1.5 GPA. I mean, maybe you can. I will not put that out there. I will not say you can't, but it's a lot less likely for you to get into medical school with 1.5 GPA as opposed to having a 3.0 or 3.5, etc. So there's no certain way. Like, if you may be excelling academically, but then you don't have so many like extracurricular experiences, then you just need to demonstrate that the commitment you have to your academics in your interviews, and really speak on being able to draw on your experiences and explain why, like explain yourself. And I love this phrase, quality over quantity. I think it's really important to understand as future pre-med students in undergrad that you maybe feel compelled to get involved in every single organization. Trust me, I was there, and I still, to some extent, am still there. But I've been weeding out organizations throughout my 4 years, not because I didn't like them, but because I realized that I needed to invest my time in things that were really important and things that I was passionate about, and some things had to give. So making sure, you can be a member of 15 different clubs, but if you don't have experiences to draw back on from those clubs, then it's like, well, what are you going to talk about? Like, how has that shaped your undergrad experience? So even if you're like the president of one club and a member of one or two others, that's awesome, because you have those leadership skills, and you don't just end up president one day. You have to work your way up there, and so it's really important to take that into consideration when you're deciding what to get involved in. And then expanding your global lens. So I studied abroad the summer after my freshman year. I went to Hong Kong. I know this picture is in Korea, but it was just like the first one I found on my computer, and I was like, oh, this is kind of colorful and neat. I like it. But I studied abroad in Hong Kong after my freshman year, and it was a life-changing experience for sure. It definitely gave me a much broader global lens. Like, my view was no longer centered around me living in Florida, never having moved from Florida. It went to, now I have this perspective of so many people that live way differently than I do, and the culture in Hong Kong is way different than the culture in the United States, especially in Florida. And so the climate was similar, so that was nice. Wasn't too hard to get adjusted to, but everything else was just, it was amazing. And so I got to go to Korea, I went to Japan, I went to Singapore, went to Macau a couple times because it's just an hour ferry ride from Hong Kong. So really getting that chance to um, expand my cultural competency, which is a term you might hear a lot later on in your undergraduate studies, hopefully, if you take some time to consider the more humanities aspect of medicine. But and then I studied infectious disease and psychology when I was there, which is super cool because it's now putting these subjects that I had knowledge about in a United States context now in like a more global context. So that was awesome. And then you don't immediately dismiss the idea of gap years. And so I mentioned earlier, I'm taking a gap 2 years after I graduate, going to Anaheim, California for this Bible school community service type training over there. And so I decided to do that about a year ago, like fully set my heart on that. I'm a believer in God, and so my faith kind of dictates a lot of my actions and what I do. Of course, I consider a lot of different things, but I allow that plays a huge role in my identity. Being a Christian is really important to me, and so I realized that this passion of mine, it would allow me to study, continue studying, but not necessarily in a scientific context. So I'll be taking different classes about the Christian life, some classes in Greek and stuff, and so still developing the study habits without giving up, without experiencing the burnout of still doing more science and more all these hard, STEM classes. Um, and then, so yeah, so don't dismiss that idea. Some people do research their gap years. Some people take 10 gap years. Also, for clarification purposes, gap years are, I'm sure you can deduct this, but the years between graduating with your bachelor's in undergrad when you enter into medical school. So a lot of people, there's a traditional way that they call it. I'm not sure I quite agree with that term, just because it's becoming less and less traditional. But there's a traditional way of just entering into medical school right after undergrad. And so having that, the possibility of taking these gap years, going abroad, teaching abroad, traveling, working at home with your family, like shadowing, working as a scribe in a clinic, those kinds of things that you can do during your gap year. Um, and then lastly, you're a human being. So taking care of yourself as a pre-med student, being involved in activities that you just like. And maybe you didn't start an organization, but you were in an a cappella group. Like me, I was in an a cappella group my first 2 years of college. And though that wasn't like necessarily playing a role in my path to medicine, it definitely still gave me some skills. It allowed me to pursue my passion for music. And so, yeah, so you're a human first. And so it's important to take care of all parts of your human being. And so I just included some pictures over here. So the bottom right was when I was in Korea. The bottom left is being a part of this organization called Gators for Refugee Medical Relief, which is where we tutor refugees in Jacksonville back, before Corona. Now we do it online. But I love working with kids, hence also why I did Reading Pals. And so I'm incorporating my passion for like education once again. This is now more in a medical context because we do medical presentations and volunteer at remote area medical clinics, giving you a different lens on healthcare services for underserved communities. And so that's one of my favorite organizations I do too. This is my best friend Jarrett, one of them at least, my best friend, and we're both really involved in UF honors. So we were this year we're directors of a camp we have called H Camp, and so it was awesome. Super cool opportunity, but once again, just being involved with honors, not everything is related to medicine, but being in honors has given me so many leadership skills, so many teamwork skills, so many transferable skills that I'll be able to implement when I'm in medical school and even beyond. And this last picture over here, I incorporates two different things. So my church family, these believers are from all over the world, but we all actually no, most of us live in the United States now, but it's really cool because we like to get together and sing. And so this was at like an international conference we went to. And so we record music together. We had a little setup on top of the trash can. I have my piano or my keyboard and my guitars and ukulele over here. So I like to record music in my free time for my church, and just make some songs from some Bible verses and stuff like that, and just being a part of that community. So once again, not medicine related, but still something that I'm really passionate about and something that helps me take care of myself as a human being. And so I believe, that's all I had. So I'm going to stop my screen share and open the chat for any questions. I know we had one earlier about shadowing. So shadowing now looks a lot different than shadowing did a few years ago. So my first shadowing experience I had was in person. It was with my he was a pulmonary hypertension, specialist that worked at Shands, which is the hospital that's on campus for my school. And I shadowed with him for a few months over the summer and through the course of the fall. And how I found that out was through actually a friend who was taking a shadowing course where she started shadowing him. His name was Dr. Ataya. And so she started shadowing him, and I was talking to her about it. And I didn't have room in my schedule to take the course per se, but I still needed to get some shadowing experience. And so she goes, yeah, just email around. And I emailed him, and I just was with the short introduction. I said, hi, my name's Cosette. I'm this at University of Florida, blah, blah, blah. I'm passionate about blah, blah, blah. And not like writing a paragraph because, they're doctors, they're busy. They don't have a time to read your whole TED talk about why you want to go into medicine. But you do, want to come across as a human. And so being like, hey, I've looked at some of the work you've done, whether it's you look at their publications or you looked at some of achievements that they've had or you've heard through word of mouth. And so then I emailed him, and he emailed me back and said, yeah, what time are you available to come in? And I said, okay, this time. And it was over the summer, so there was less people. So it was really optimal for me to do that then. And so in the mornings we'd go and I'd shadow him in the med surg units at the hospital. We do our rounds from like 7 to 9 a.m. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, he had a clinic. On certain Mondays and Wednesdays, and so I'd go shadow him when he was seeing patients one-on-one at the clinics, and so that was an awesome experience. And then lately I've been doing a lot of virtual shadowing, so a lot of people have developed these programs. They're not what you think, they are when it comes to shadowing. It's not like they take around a camera, like they're not live streaming going into patients because that violates a lot of HIPAA rules and everything. But they go through cases with you. So I did like a medical education experience over the summer with a doctor who was also passionate about educating pre-meds. And so every week he'd give us a new case, and then we all get on a Google Meet with him and meet and discuss the case, like how to make a differential diagnosis, how you treat these patients, what things you look for when you're conducting a patient assessment, and those kinds of things. And then there's like, if you have Instagram, you can follow a lot of people. I can put them in the chat. Like there's web shadowers, there's virtual shadowing. If you just look at the people that they're following on Instagram, you can see like there's other like pre-med. I think one is called pre-med opportunities. So I'll put that opportunities. That should I spelled it right. Sorry, I didn't major in English. So I believe that's one on Instagram. So looking at those, it definitely is. And there's people there in high school that are doing these experiences. Some of them you have to sign up for like an email listserv. Some of them just try to stream it on YouTube live, and they have a Google form that you fill out. And you can count your hours, get little certificates for going. You get 2 hours of shadowing for going to this session, and so you keep those. I keep those in a folder, and so that way, if I need to approve to medical schools in the future, how many hours I did, I can say, I have these certificates to prove that's what I did. It's really hard right now. It is, but luckily y'all are in high school, so it's easier. Not easier, but I'd say you have a little bit more time. Hopefully, we will have a vaccine for COVID soon, and things will start getting back to more in-person opportunities. People might still be weary for years to come, but taking that into consideration, medical schools, if anyone knows what's going on right now with the virus, it's them. So they also understand if you don't have hundreds of hours of shadowing experience, it won't be held against you too much. Just working with what you can do. So that was a long-winded answer, but it's a very important question. Okay, next we have, what if you didn't get into medical school after doing pre-med for 4 years? So that is an occurrence that happens. That is something that happens. I don't know how common it is, so I don't know any statistics, but I do know there are people that apply to medical school and don't get in. And that is okay, because I am a firm believer that if you have the drive for medicine and the means to apply again, having the financial ability to apply, it's not super cheap to apply to medical school, but there's like the fee waivers, depending on your income level and tax returns, those kinds of things, that documentation you can look into when it comes to that time, to help you out with the cost of applying to medical school. But if you don't get in, then people will take those gap years, like I was mentioning earlier, and maybe go work as a scribe at a clinic, or they may even ask for feedback from the medical school admissions committees, and they might say, hey, I was rejected, maybe what are some things I can work on? And some medical schools might be like, we're too busy for that, or they might say, unfortunately, we can't help you, we can't provide that kind of critique for you yet, but other medical schools may be more than happy to tell you, yeah, you were great in this aspect, but you're missing clinical experience. And so, okay, well, now I should go work as a scribe. I should go maybe get my CNA license, or become a med tech, those kinds of things. Or maybe you were doing great, but maybe your academics weren't the best. And so they have masters in science, masters in medicine, I think, educational programs that you can go to boost up your science GPA and boost up your overall GPA too as well. So that I don't think that should discourage anyone from applying to medical school again if they don't get in the first time, unless they have this realization that they kind of have a low-key sigh of relief, like, oh, I didn't get in. Okay, I kind of feel good about this. Yeah, I feel like this is what I wanted to do, but this has opened my eyes to new opportunities. And so understanding that being a doctor is not the only profession out there, but you can totally do other things with your life, if you feel your strengths and you feel your passions lead you elsewhere. So yeah, there's that. Does anyone else have any other questions? Anything you want to talk about? I don't know what times these meetings usually go until, but I'm good for another like 20 minutes. So not sure y'all want to sit here for another 20 minutes, but yeah, that was a lot. Let me get some water. Can you be a medical assistant without a certificate? So as far as I know of, there are medical assistants, there are programs that you have to go through. However, as a CNA, you're able, some agencies, some nursing homes, healthcare facilities may pay for you to get your CNA license if you are a really strong candidate, not a really strong interview candidate, for a hiring position. Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking some private offices, yeah, if they're really looking for a med assistant and you show those qualities of being a good med assistant and you're really advocating your case, then I'd say, yeah, they could teach you, you learn through experience. I think that's really an important aspect of being any kind of nursing medical assistant, is having that experience on the go. You can only learn so much from a textbook and from online training courses. And so, yeah, I say reach out to your private practices, private offices, and see if they're willing to take on a med assistant and even train you. Did you take AP classes? If so, what? Or Was your high school an IB school? Okay, so my school was an ACE school. You may or may not have heard of that. It's okay if you haven't. It's through the Cambridge program. So ACE, I don't know what it stands for. All I know is that it's like international examinations, very similar to IB. I know IB, there's higher level and lower level, I think. And the same way with ACE, we had AS level and A level, which were like low and high level. Um, but they're really equivalent to AP classes, I'd say, to an extent. I did take my school offered one AP class, and that was AP BC Calc, because after ACE Math 2, there was no higher math level. So my senior year, like there was like 12 of us who like didn't have a math to take after we reached ACE Math 2, so we did BC Calc. And that was fun. It was fun switching from ACE to AP curriculum, because in ACE they don't believe in limits in ACE Math. They have a whole other class for about limits, and so we had to do a lot of calc without limits. So we went to BC Calc, and all my teacher was like, "What do you mean we don't know what a limit is?" And so that was a fun time. But I definitely recommend them taking AP classes. They definitely prepare you for the rigor of college classes. I've only taken that one AP class, but for my ACE classes, it was a lot of writing. And so we had to do a lot more than just multiple choice tests. I don't think I took a single multiple choice exam as an ACE student. I only did free response writing. And so that prepared me to do a lot of the collegiate level work that is expected of you when you do come into college. And also depends on what college you want to go to. But remind me, what state is this school in? How many classes did you have? Oh, Virginia. Okay, awesome. East Coast. Bet. So if anybody are looking to go to the University of Florida, I'm your girl, point of contact. Um, but okay, so how many classes did you have each day in college? So college is really cool. You can kind of set up your own experience, your own schedule, mostly depending on what classes you want to take. I think my first 2 years, I mostly had classes on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and that can be anywhere from two to like four classes in a row. You have the liberty to schedule classes like based off of your schedule. So right now, like Zoom wise, my classes, I only have class on Tuesdays. The rest of them are completely online. Pre-pandemic, I think I sometimes, as I was getting upper, like more, like higher in my major, I could schedule my classes to be just Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I had Monday, Wednesday, Friday off to do my other responsibilities or do my online classes. So it's a really hard question because it's different for every single college student. Um, yeah, people like me, I like to have my classes back to back so I could get them all done. Some people prefer a class and then a block break and then another class and then a block break. So it depends on personal preference, but that kind of stuff that you get in the groove of when you're going into college, getting your feet wet. Yeah, good questions, y'all. That's awesome that they're not just like medicine related. Like I know that was my presentation's main focus, but it's really important. Like you're going to be a college student first, and so it's awesome that y'all have this idea of like going into healthcare at such, I'd say, a young age. A lot of people have this idea when they're children, but you're proactively taking these steps to figure out what it's like to be a worker in the healthcare field, and so that's really awesome. But yeah, you are you're a college student before specifically a pre-med student, and so making sure you're prepared for that experience. And y'all will have a very unique experience going to college in the middle of a pandemic. It's not something a lot of people have to face. A lot of problems, other people haven't had to face, and so you're having to go through a lot of different stressors and different unique experiences. So kudos to y'all for thriving in high school right now. Um, yeah. What year are you guys? Just curious if y'all want to put in the chat. Some of y'all want to put whether you're like freshmen, seniors, junior. Okay. Senior. Oh, there's a lot of seniors in here. Okay, good. Whew. I was like, what if they're all freshmen and I'm talking about going into college right now? It's not super relevant. Okay, awesome. Oh, we had a question. What made you choose UF? Okay, so I'm from Florida. I've only ever lived in Florida. But shameless plug, UF is number 6 in the country for public schools. We just reached top 6 this year, so that's kind of cool. That also means our classes are pretty hard. So there's a high, like a academic workload, or not workload. I'd say it's a lot more rigorous. And so there's a higher expectation of needing to get high achieving students. That's not to say, we only like accept people who are really good test takers or anything like that by any means. But our rankings kind of speak for our standing, yeah, for our academic rigor. But oh, bye, Miriam. It's nice to have you. Um, Yeah, so but then also, so I got into UF honors. At that time, there was a separate application process for honors, and so being accepted into honors was kind of like the gold seal, the ribbon on the present. Um, that made me choose UF because on top of UF being a good school and recognized nationally, it was like the honors program, which is a little bit more selective and definitely helps you shape your experience into like helps you like choose your own adventures. What our director likes to say a lot is to choose your own adventure. So you get certain points for completing certain things. So like I got points for studying abroad, I got points for research, I got points for volunteering, I got points for holding leadership positions, and then you get put in this community of other scholars who are just really passionate about so many different incredible things. But yeah, go Gators! Oh, bye, Harper. Okay, I'll say names now. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions or anything? Um, UF has an awesome alumni network. So I was in Japan and I saw a dude wearing a Gators hat when I was over there. That was really awesome because I was like, whoa, we're on another side of the world. So, oh, I should have put like my email. I mean, Lucy, you're more than welcome to give them my email if any of them have any questions. I'm putting it in the chat right now.
Okay, yeah, I'll send that out to everyone in the remind after the meeting.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, after your gap year finishes, where do you plan on going slash doing? So I'm taking that gap 2 year program and I'm applying to medical school while I'm in those gap years. And so I I might stay in Florida. I mean, it's pretty good for in-state tuition. It's pretty good to get that kind of discount for medical school. There's a lot of different good med schools here in Florida, so I'll definitely apply to all in-state schools. I was also kind of looking at other schools like University of Michigan. I've been researching a lot about their program. They're a really good school, but on top of that, they have an a cappella group just for med students. Like, count me in. But that's not that's not my deciding factor of where I'm going to go. But I was thinking of that. Of course, out-of-state tuition would be kind of a lot, but it's about what you feel led to do, what you feel at peace with. So for me, if I'm like, yeah, I feel led to just stay in Florida, then I'll do that. But maybe I'll go somewhere else and apply out of state and get some feelers out, see where I'm headed for after. Um, yeah, but also in those gap 2 years, if for some reason, I'm led to not apply to medical school, then that's also an option too, to always be open to other possibilities. But for right now, I think that's kind of what I plan. I plan to go to medical school after. Ooh, this Zoom has been on for 55 minutes. Wow, we have a lot of good conversations happening here. What's your favorite class you've taken so far? Oh, goodness gracious, that's so hard. Okay, so honor specific, there are certain like honor sections and honors classes you can take. I got to take a class, something called, and you're looking forward to. So I got to take a class my sophomore year. It's called an uncommon read. So basically, it's like a one credit book club type thing that our honors program offers a lot of, and you can even have the opportunity to teach one for yourself as you get into your college career. But I did one on Hamilton, which was super cool. So basically, it was taught by the director of my honors program, and we read simultaneously the biography by Chernow and also the Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And we read those side by side and compared a lot of the historical facts presented in the musical and seeing where there were some hiccups or there was some not historically accurate. Um, Why is it English? I'm sorry, I was reading the next question. So we have to compare those two books and really like explore a lot of ins and outs about the musical. And also, I loved Hamilton before I took that class, and so this kind of gave me a deeper appreciation for the history and all the time it took to really write out every single detail to make it historically accurate. So I loved that class. Anything I'm looking forward to. So, in my major is health education and behavior, and we have to do an internship our last semester. And so I'm doing an internship next semester with the Equal Access Clinic Network. It's a completely volunteer-run student network here, providing healthcare access to different parts of the Gainesville community that are underserved. And so combating those health disparities, like I talked about earlier, and that's also my minors in health disparities, which is just access to healthcare and eliminating those barriers to adequate healthcare. And so I'm really looking forward to that internship next semester. Like, you have no idea how excited I am. Okay, and then in high school, what was your least favorite subject and why is it English? I don't know if that's supposed to be like a joke because like my English is not the best when I like speak. But I did like English a lot when I was in high school. What didn't I like? That's the hard part about I think a lot of pre-med students is we have a lot of different interests that are all like intersect at some point. And so yeah, I loved history. I did history all 4 years of high school. When you only need I think like two. But I loved history. If I could like triple major, I'd probably do history and like something in the sciences on top of health education. I don't know if I had a least favorite subject. We had to do this like career wheel class, which I didn't think was very practical because it didn't help me at all. Maybe it helped other students, but like this like career research and decision making class that, yeah, honestly, I could have used my time in a more productive manner. But we live, we learn. It's okay. It's required. So, you have any other comments or questions? I'm really enjoying these. This is awesome.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. It was super interesting and helpful.
For sure. It was my pleasure, honestly. Like when I saw that opportunity in that the group me I was in with Fadi, I was like, "This is an awesome," this is an awesome. Yep. See, that's my demonstration of lack of English. This is a great opportunity, and mentorship is so important. Mentorship is so important in any kind of career you're going into, especially medicine. It's very experiential learning. So, more than happy to speak with you all and even learn from you all. So, yeah. Thank you. Oh, I know how it's like now when I'm thanking my lecturer at the end of the lectures